Hello everyone, welcome to the OOABAP refresher course, and today we will talk about the interfaces, which is really an important part of object-oriented ABAP. Basically, I will start my conversation uh, with an important thing. Let's say when I started my learning for interfaces, I could not understand the critical role which it plays, or an important role which it plays during creation of frameworks in object-oriented programming. But over the period of time, sense the I could sense the interesting part and or the important part which these interfaces are going to play in our day-to-day life. And basically, if you would ask me what is more important in the class or the interfaces, I would prefer to go with the interfaces, because that is what a normal guy or a user can play with. So if you're talking about the classes as well, we do know, like, we have the public section, we have the visibility sections, different visibility sections based on the external users can play with the data, or can utilize the characteristics and behavior of a class. So in the same way, the interface is what is an interface. Expands the public functionality of a class. So when I say public functionality, let's say this is a class having this, this is the class, and under that we have let's say this is a class. And what an interface does is it will expand the public functionality of a class. So it helps, or it plays an important role. So let's say if this is an interface. Okay, so this is an interface. So what an interface is, classes do implement the interfaces, and that means the extra piece of functionality, or you can extend or expand the class definition. So what happens is, what makes this particular interface different from the classes, in the interfaces, we whatever we declare is always public. There is no public section, private, protected section, or the private section. In interfaces, everything is public. So when I say everything is public and the classes are going to implement the interfaces, so that means the public section can be is now extended, and the external users who are playing with this classes, or who are going to use these classes, can easily takes the advantage of this. So because for the external user here, there is the only thing which he can see is, or she can see is, only the public section of a class or interface. So what are the private section and the protected sections are not meant for this guy. So this guy can only sense the public section, whatever is classes is giving us the authority to see. So that comes under the public section. So he can only, let's say, inside the class we do have the public section, we do have the protected section, we do have the private section. So this is the public section, this is the protected section, and this is the private section. So an user, and I, as I said, like, for in interfaces, everything whatever you define is a public is public. So this particular user can only have the control to look into this section, and also only this section. Okay, so he doesn't have the what to say, the probability to look into the uh, protected section, and the private section. So just like this. So he doesn't have the control of this section. So for the external point of users, so we don't have they only access the public section of particular class. So what interfaces does is it will additionally it will provide a class an additional set of functionality which the other users can utilize it. So as I said, like the important things under this concept is we know about the classes. For the classes, we do have the uh, so classes are templates which where we design the characteristics and behavior of the objects of objects and in order to access those properties or behaviors, we do create objects and access these properties and behaviors. So but what about the interfaces? The important concept in interfaces is interfaces are like they do not have the possibility of creating an object. So when I say they do not have the possibility of creating the objects, then what is the use of defining the attributes or properties or the methods or the characteristics inside the interfaces if no one is going to, I mean, it's really important how do we access those properties and characteristics or behavior of the interfaces. So that means, so there is a concept like you can assign the instances of the classes to the interfaces which that particular class is implementing. So having said that, let's say if we do have something called data lr obj type ref2 type ref2 certain class, let's say lcl underscore class. And so what happens is in order to access the properties and behavior of the class, what we are going to do is we will create an object, create object lr underscore obj. So and then we can lr obj can do is they can access the properties, or I would say characteristics or behavior behavior of the behavior of the particular class. So class meant for the object. So we basically we can access the properties and characteristics of the objects. Okay, so basically what happens is here we do have this particular functionality. And when I say that the interfaces do not have the possibility to create the objects, and we do have the possibility of defining the public section or expanding the public section, then what we are saying is then there should be a way to access these characteristics or behaviors what we are defining inside the interface for whatever reason. So yeah, the reason could be, some classes may implement this interface and can take the advantage of whatever we are defining here inside the interfaces. So the possibility here is let's say if we have data lr interface type ref2 let's say zif interface, then what type of zif interface, then what we can do is we can directly assign underscore inf is equal to lr obj. So here what we are saying is whatever the instance of the object of a class, we can directly assign it to the interfaces reference variable. So this is called the interface reference variable, this is called the class reference variable. So where the class reference variables are able to store the instances of the classes, and where the interface reference variables are capable enough to store the instances of the classes whoever implements this interface. So that means if we do have any other class, who again implements this particular interface, same interface, then this particular interface variable or reference variable is now capable of assigning the instances of this class as well. So basically, now this is more generic than the class reference variable, which is specific to a class. Now we are able to store the instances of all the classes whoever implements that particular interface. Okay, so this is an important concept, and which most of the time it's helpful in order to create a framework. So this is very important to understand this behavior. So in the next section, the idea of interfaces would be more clear when we will take you to one of the simple example of interfaces and their usages. And meanwhile, stay tuned, and if you really like this session, just do comment and let us know if you really want to have another session on interfaces. What are your thoughts about the interfaces? And here to sum up this session, we just said the interfaces are nothing but a way of expanding the public functionality of class, and classes implement interfaces, and whatever we define inside the interfaces is public, and we do only have the definitions of the methods whatever we have inside the interfaces, and implementation part or the implementation of such methods can only be done inside the classes, whoever implements those interfaces. And in order to access the attributes, and we also said, like, we do not have the possibility of creating the objects of an interface. Rather, creating an object of the interfaces, what we have is the capability of the interfaces is more generic than the classes. And when I say generic, that means now interfaces are capable enough to store the references of the object, or the instances of all of the instances of the objects of all the classes whoever implements this interface. And it doesn't matter whether those classes directly implementing those interfaces, or any of the super classes have implemented those interfaces. So what I meant is, instead of directly, this is the important point. And sorry for taking a bit long. Let's say if this is the same interface, and so it doesn't matter whether this particular class is directly implementing it, or if this is a class, and we do have the super class who is in. So if this is the subclass, and let's say this is subclass, and this is the superclass, and so it doesn't matter if this particular class directly is not implementing this interface. Rather, so let's say Control C and Control V. So what I'm saying is, if this particular class, so hope you do understand what I'm trying to say here is, okay, so if this class is implementing this interface, so now also this particular interface reference variable will be able to store the instances of this class as well, the objects of this class as well. So it doesn't matter whether the interfaces are directly implemented, what we have on the left hand side, or indirectly implemented, what we have in the right hand side, where the superclass implemented the interface but not the subclass, but still the subclass would be able to uh, story would be if we can assign the instances of the subclass to the interface as well as interface. So we talked about the class reference variable, we talked about the interface reference variable, and we'll talk more about these two topics. We'll talk about both these topics in our next session. And meanwhile, you do subscribe our channel if you really find it helpful, because this is just an initiative to share the knowledge whatever we have to the maximum group of people who are really struggling to get the concepts out of this. So it's just an initiative free of cost, and you can uh, take the advantage out of it. So thanks. Hope you